Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Welcome back to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak. If you're new here, we are kind of almost in the middle of a series all about what I'm calling the real stages of the academic career. Now, if you want to go back in the feed, a couple episodes ago, we released my original kind of overview of the real stages. And now what I'm doing is each week I'm digging deeply into each stage, what you should be thinking about in terms of your writing and publishing at these different stages, and why thinking about the stages of the academic career in this way is more helpful than thinking about what I call the received stages. The received stages are doctoral degree, postdoc, depending on field, pre-tenure, post-tenure, something else, right? Like blob at the end that nobody ever talks about. So we're talking about all of it. I'm renaming them. Last week, I talked about what I call the apprenticeship stage. So this is the stage where you are learning under the supervision of an advisor. And in the spirit of kind of rejecting the received stages, this stage does not necessarily like end at graduation or end when you finish your postdoc. And that's one of the important things that you need to realize, because the next stage, and that's what we're talking about today, I'm calling it stepping into your own. And this is the stage where you are creating something that is uniquely yours, and you are in the process of stepping out from under the wing of any advisors. So some people would kind of align this, or this often happens in relationship to the received stages. It would often happen in the first few years that you're on the tenure track, or roughly people would call this the pre-tenure moment. But again, I don't think that's that helpful, because I feel like pre-tenure, you both do this, stepping into your own stage that I'm going to talk about, and the next stage, which is planting your flag. And that is when kind of the time around that first promotion where you're going up for tenure. We're going to dig all into that on next week's episode. But today we're talking about stepping into your own. This process of creating what is yours, uniquely yours, and that is distinct from your advisor's work. Okay. So just like in the previous episodes and in my future episodes about this, I have about 7 areas where I'm interested in kind of breaking down like what you're often worried about, and then where your time and energy would kind of be better placed. We might hit all of them. I have to see kind of how it goes. But of course, we're going to start with your writing practice. So when you are in the stepping into your own stage, what are you kind of experiencing or worried about in your writing practice? Okay, so in stepping into your own, you're starting. It's the reason it's stepping, right? You're creating your own voice that's separate from your advisors. So what you might be worried about at this stage in relation to your writing practice is your, solo authored papers, or papers where you are driving the science, right? Or the thought leadership. But the problem is that you also probably, most of the things that are in your publication pipeline as you're stepping into your own are holdovers from your apprenticeship stage. And this causes a problem. The problem is that your new projects are forward thinking potentially, right? They're about your new direction that you want to take, but you still have to put energy into publishing the old projects, the projects that were developed, the data was collected and maybe analyzed during your apprenticeship stage. So a simple way to talk about this is that many people, when they are stepping into their own, they are still publishing off of their dissertation. Now, your dissertation is obviously yours, right? But your dissertation as a project is greatly shaped by your advisors. And also, similarly, any kind of holdover projects from your postdoc is also greatly shaped by the postdoc advisor. And so you're in this situation where you're actually pivoting in your career. And you're probably pivoting, and what it looks like is a pivot in your research area. Maybe it's like, okay, now I'm really going to explore this thing that I really wanted to explore more deeply that wasn't in line with what my advisor was talking about. Or maybe it's just I'm taking the work that I did under my advisor to the next logical step. But there's a tension between the old stuff that's in your pipeline, which is like your low-hanging fruit stuff, and new things that are more aligned with developing your new identity, which you absolutely need to do in order to get to the next stage, which is planting your flag. That's a problem. And how it comes out in the writing at this stage is actually what often happens is you'll start to get this like publication pipeline clog or backup because you want to work on the new things that you're thinking about, but the things that are most close to being submitted articles or submitted publications are the old things. And so what to do, right? What to do? So I think you can do a combination of two things. Obviously, there is pressure in this stage to get publications submitted, even though I imagine this stage at still being several years away from going up for tenure. There's a lot to do between now and that first big promotion. So you really need to get some things out, but you need to balance that with several things. So one thing you need to balance that with is you only have so much time and energy. In the stepping into your own stage, you're often in a new job, right? This is where in the traditional stages of the academic career, you would have gotten your tenure track job, or maybe even your full-time researcher job. So as you are doing that, right, like you are maybe moving, you're getting used to a new department, you're teaching new classes potentially, like it's a lot of newness. And so you need to find a balance between kind of managing all of that newness and the amount of energy and time it takes, wanting to pursue new ideas, maybe a new data project, maybe even applying for a grant early so that you're getting yourself set up for your new data collection, and clearing out the old things. So what you really need at this stage in terms of your writing practice is process. You need systems and process. And you need to think, I invite you to think about your holdover papers, like the papers off of your dissertation or papers that are co-authored with your advisor or advisors. I invite you to think about them as just more practice, more reps, as we talked about in the last episode, more chances to get better at dominating your genre, which is the genre of peer-reviewed publications in your field. So you have to, at this stage, at the stepping into your own stage, there's this like shift and blending of the previous things that you've started to work on with the advisor and now you're finishing, and your new things, and you're managing that transition. And what's going to best serve you to get through that transition is some structure and systems around your writing practice. Okay. I would be neglectful if I didn't mention that I have a program for that. That's something you could totally find in our Navigate program, which opens for enrollment again late July, early August. Okay. You can find the waitlist at scholarsvoice.org/navigate. Moving on, relationship with your mentors in the stepping into your own stage. So you have whatever relationship you have with your advisor or previous mentors. What I see is that many people in the stepping into your own stage are spending too much time trying to keep that relationship, even though it's not serving them anymore, or in the structure, the way the relationship was structured, it no longer serves you. So what I mean is that you might have the belief at this stage of the career that the reason that you are valuable is because of your connection to your advisor. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. The reason that you are valuable at this stage is because you are inherently valuable, of course, and that your work on its own is valuable. So I'll say that I have coached and do coach many people who at this stage of the career are maintaining relationships with advisors that no longer serve them. And they're doing it because they think that that's the only way they can publish, or that's the only way. Instead, what I really want you to be thinking about at this stepping into your own stage is the stepping into your own. It is coming out from under the wing of your advisor. That is the main characteristic of this stage of the career. You are parting with your advisor. And even if you had a great relationship with your advisor, you now need to reconfigure that relationship to one of colleagues rather than one of advisor-student. And I know that there's so much talk in universities and in professional development programs for universities about mentorship and finding mentors. And I actually think that that's a little bit overdone. I understand, especially for first generation scholars, first generation academics, that mentorship is important. And also, I think the overemphasis on mentorship stops you from trusting yourself and trusting the apprenticeship that you did. You did many years of apprenticeship, and now you can trust yourself to make a new path. I think that the mentoring, the overemphasis on the importance of mentoring in higher ed replicates structures of oppression. I said it. Okay. So I think that this moment of the career is becoming your own person. And so that means you have to redefine your relationship with your mentor. It might mean that you need to break off your relationship with your mentor. I've coached many people who have a toxic relationship with the mentor. You would not keep this person in your life if the person wasn't your mentor, right? Or people who just have their mentors could care less. That's indifference. And you don't need that. What you need to do is start really building your trust in yourself and your inner mentor. For this, I recommend reading Playing Big by Tara Moore, and really think about okay, how do I want to be as a scholar? How is it different from what my mentor showed me? How is my work different from my mentor's work? So there is a seismic shift in this stage of your career in the relationship with your mentor. Now, many people will get all the way to what I call the next real stage of the academic career, planting your flag. Many people will get all the way there, and they still haven't really gotten out from under the wing of their mentors. That's why I think these stages that I'm presenting overlap or can overlap. But I suggest that you spend time and energy making this shift in the best way that you can, changing your relationship with your mentor so that you are stepping out from under the wing, creating a colleague to colleague relationship, if that is possible, instead of this mentor student relationship, which it can endure in its dynamics past the time that it serves you. All right. So other areas of the career, right? Your relationship with your mentees and your students. So for the first time in stepping into your own, you are becoming the mentor. You are taking on maybe undergrad and graduate researchers under your tutelage, right? You are becoming the one who people are apprenticing with, right? Part of this stage is figuring out what that looks like for you. How do you want it to be? How do you want it to be the same as how you learned? How do you want it to be different from how you learned? That's a really important part of this stage of your career, is defining for yourself, not just replicating past relationships, but defining for yourself how you want your relationship with your students and your mentees to be. What kind of advisor do you want to be? And you want to make sure that in that process, you are shepherding those students into your work, into your academic mission statement, just as you worked towards your advisor's academic mission statement. You want to leverage your work with students so that it aligns with your academic mission statement. One big mistake I see people making in the stepping into your own point of the career is that because they're burnt out on their advisor's mission, that they don't want to force their academic mission onto students. But actually, you don't have to force anybody to do anything. What you want to do is attract students who are interested in working towards your academic mission to you and create a nurturing, positive environment where you get to work in a very aligned way with your students, all in support of your academic mission. And the hesitancy to do that in this moment of the career will start to create this feeling of I'm doing 1,000 things, because if you have 3 master's students with 3 projects that are completely not aligned with your area of work, plus you're teaching all new courses that maybe you haven't figured out how to align more closely with your work, you're all of a sudden on a bunch of committees. You've never done committee work before. It feels completely unaligned. You're like, when do I get time to do my thing? That starts in this stepping into your own stage. And if you don't start wrangling those alignments from the jump, that's when you get that feeling of overwhelm. And of course, it's totally fine that happens. It's part of the process, maybe. You could also potentially avoid it by keeping your academic mission statement at the front of your mind and making sure that even your relationship with your mentees and students is aligned with that mission. Again, we talk about that in Navigate. Okay. Other things, the relationship with your colleagues and peers at this stage of your career. This is where you want to start finding the co-authors that are amazing. The mistake that people make in this stepping into their own moment of the career is that you're so used to kind of relying on your advisor and getting some kind of credentialing from just being a student of your advisor, that you kind of try to do the same things almost with co-author relationships. And so people often take on collaborations where the actual collegial co-creative process is not good. You chose the wrong people because you're oh, I better attach myself to somebody else. When actually, again, what you need to be working on in terms of your relationship with your colleagues and peers is self-trust, understanding that you are amazing and that your work is important, and that what you want to do is be highly selective about everybody that you work with. You want to really make sure that they're not only brilliantly smart and that they bring something important to your project or to the project that you create together, but also they're great to work with, that they keep deadlines, they communicate well, all the things that make a great co-author or collaborator, co-collaborators. that's what you're doing with your relationship with colleagues and peers in this stepping into your own stage, is like you're making new connections with people that don't rely on your advisor, right? And that are worthy of your amazingness. Like, be selective, be selective. All right. So a couple of other things as another area of the career to talk about here, time management strategies. So in stepping into your own, when you're an apprentice, I mean, obviously there are many things to do. Maybe you're even working a full-time job and studying. Maybe you're a TA or a research assistant and you're studying and you're writing and all those things. All of that is true. Ask anyone who got a tenure track job. It is never so much as in those first few years in the new job. Like, even if you have been doing like what feels like a million things in your apprenticeship stage, stepping into your own, man, is going to really ramp up. And that's because of, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, so much newness, right? You also are not sure where to put your boundaries. It's a lot of boundaries resetting or boundaries setting, because you're now in like a new group of people in a new job, and you got to like reconfigure your boundaries or figure out your boundaries, how to communicate them. So all of that is really important. And so your time management strategies, you're basically trying to figure it out. So don't worry that the first year or first couple semesters feel kind of out of control. What you need to be saying to yourself about time management is, let me get boundaries in place. Let me create a flow. Let me embrace seasonality, right? I have lots of podcasts I got about this. So please listen to the backlog of podcasts. It's not the backlog, the back catalog of podcasts. And of course, we teach time management, mission-based time and project management strategies and navigate. But, you know, really during this stage, you are figuring out something completely new with a level of complexity never before seen. So get ready, be gentle and kind to yourself, and work on boundaries. Work on boundaries. All right. So just before we close off the conversation about stepping into your own, 2 more areas of the career to think about: relationship to research and your grant writing / funding. This is, again, you're stepping into your own. So your relationship to research should be, or needs to be, like something different than your advisor, what you really want. So getting in tune with what that is, creating the environment in which you can do the research is really important. So thinking about, what is my academic mission statement? What do I want to pursue? And what's the first few steps to pursuing that? That's what you're thinking about in your relationship to research. And again, how is it similar to what you did with your advisor? How is it different? And for grant writing and funding, I think that some people, not lucky, but like people who go to schools that are privileged, I guess, or who get jobs at schools that have budget, might have startup funds. So what you want to think about in terms of your grant writing and funding, how can you leverage your startup funds to your best advantage? Like, where are they going to pay off the most? Of course, since my whole job is doing professional development, I think that some part of your startup funds should be reserved for professional development, a program like Navigate, some other program. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Your investing in yourself is going to pay dividends like way more than buying a new computer, for example. Although that might also be something that you want to do. So thinking about, how are you going to use your startup funds? How are you going to leverage those into your first grants by getting preliminary data, that kind of thing? How are you going to set up your lab or your research center or your research program with the funds that you have? And if you don't have funds, this is a great moment to start learning how to ask for things. So you never are going to get if you don't ask. And so if you need money to start a research program, if you need support for professional development, this is the time to start talking to the dean about that and saying like, hey, I would like $5,000 to start this line of research, then I'm going to apply for this grant, this large grant once I have preliminary data. Or I want to, be able to travel to conferences. So I need conference money, I need travel funds, I need professional development funds because I want to start off right. All of these things actually show that you are a wonderful hiring choice, especially depending how you talk about them, right? Like if you present your requests as like, I am here to do my best for this university. If you invest in me, your investment will pay off. That's the attitude you want to have when you're asking, not one of like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I need training, or, oh, I can't afford to take myself to places, so I need you to pay for it. Like none of that. The posturing is powerful posturing. That's what you like, from a powerful stance, asking for the kind of support you need, whether it's for seed money or professional development funds or travel funds or that kind of thing. So I hope that you have enjoyed and are enjoying this series about the real stages of the academic career. I talk a lot about many career-related things, but specifically about writing and publishing in my free newsletter, which is called In the Pipeline. Comes out on Mondays. You can go to scholarsvoice.org and scroll down to the bottom of any page, and you will find the form to fill out to sign up for that newsletter. You're going to get publishing tips. You're going to get writing tips. You're going to get book recommendations. You're going to get strategies. And I will point you in that series to the best of our back catalog of podcasts, the most helpful ones, because I know that at this point there's over 200, so it can be a little hard to sift through. So if you're interested in hearing more and you like this podcast, I encourage you to go to scholarsvoice.org and sign up for the In the Pipeline newsletter. Just scroll down to the bottom of any one of the pages on that website. So today was about stepping into your own. Next week, we're talking about planting your flag. And this is the tenure moment. This is where you declare who you are, what your work is, okay? And how you are indispensable to the university and why they should keep you. So it is different than stepping into your own, because stepping into your own really acknowledges that the first few years out of apprenticeship is a process of reforming your identity, your professional identity, out from under the wing of your advisor. Planting your flag is confirming that identity and really saying, I am here to do this work in the world. Take it or leave it, tenure committee. So we'll be talking all about that and how to think about promotion in next week's episode. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.